That's how politics work in general. Can y'all please internalize that Hasan said he'd vote third party because of the situation, if it was Gavin versus JD Vance, would already be so cooked to be pointless. He doesn't actually think third party is viable. Get this through your skulls, please. Exactly. Anyway, let's watch Jennifer Welch's takeaway from the major controversy that came out after the fact.
Is winning right now. They're winning because MAGA is so horrible. They're polling historically low. And within the Democratic Party, you have a couple of different sects. You have the corporate Democrats, the vote blue no matter who. And then you have real progressive Democrats who kind of feel homeless but end up voting with the Democrats because of harm reduction. And I was the former, and I'm morphing into the latter. After Kamala lost, I really started taking a look. Why?
Jennifer Welch is not alone. Jennifer Welch is speaking to a very common experience. Jennifer Welch's experience going from vote blue no matter who and a harm reduction voter to a voter that says, I think we need to demand more from the Democratic electeds, and clearly the harm reduction narratives are not working, is an experience shared by many people, okay? Many average American liberal Democratic Party voters. A lot of these centrists are relying on the harm reduction to kick in. A lot of these centrists are relying on Democrats basically looking at the current state of affairs with the Republican Party and its unlimited cruelty and saying, oh, they're going to come back to us. They're going to come back to us. We don't have to do anything. Okay? Yeah. That's it. I really, really, really appreciate that she is sticking her neck out on this too.
Are Democrats losing to this man, this moronic, fascist man? How are we losing? So I had a conversation with leftist streamer Hasan Piker and Austin Show on I've Had It in New York City. And a clip from our conversation is going viral all over Twitter and social media, TikTok, Instagram, etc. And this conversation to me is it appears that people online are trying to shut this conversation down. And when somebody's trying to do that, then I think, oh, this is the conversation we absolutely need to have. And so I'm going to play a little bit of it right now. Please do not back out of this video, because to me, this is the most important conversation to be had within the political spaces right now for anybody that wants to fight. Play the clip.
Disappointed in Gavin Newsom.
Who do you vote for, JD Vance or Gavin Newsom?
Well, I'd have to vote for Gavin Newsom.
Me
of
too.
course, 100%.
I wouldn't blink. What about you, Hasan?
I'd probably vote third party.
You would?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that point, it doesn't even matter. Like, because my policy on this is the same as like my refusal to endorse Kamala Harris. The reason why I did not endorse Kamala Harris was because she did things that were not only unproductive, but also unconscionable. And I still stand on that. I still talk about it all the time because people constantly bring it up. They're like, you didn't sufficiently like promote Kamala Harris. You're the reason why she lost. And I'm like, I am incapable. There is no singular force in this country that is capable of making or breaking an election. And if that was real, then it is the most idiotic thing not to listen to my demands. But everybody knows that that's not real, right? Mm-hmm. If I had this singular force to be able to make Kamala Harris the president, then Kamala Harris should be coming to me every day and being like, let me do a collab with you, please.
Totally.
Right? That's not the case, of course. And they know it. That's why they didn't do it. But the campaigns are always responsible for whether or not they are able to win the crowds.
Okay, pause that right there, Kylie, and leave it up. So what he's saying here, I think, is really true. Number one, when it comes to Gavin Newsom, for somebody like Hasan, who has felt very homeless in the American two-party system, you have Gavin. I gave him a hypothetical question: Gavin Newsom or JD Vance. Gavin Newsom, instead of going on Hasan's
chat moves so slow, it's because they're all locked in listening to Mother.
He has had Charlie Kirk on, and he has had Ben Shapiro on. Gavin Newsom has. In each case, he ceded progressive causes. He ceded trans rights, and he ceded ICE to Ben Shapiro very easily. He's fumbled on Israel big time, and he's a huge corporate donor. receives a lot of PAC money. And he has said that he will not tax billionaires. All of these things are very unpopular with Democrats at large, specifically with this group of people that feel homeless in the America two-party system. So from Hasan's perspective here, he's like, I'm going to vote third party because he doesn't see any difference in the help for marginalized people. He sees one person that campaigns as slightly liberal, yet takes all of the same money from these corporate PACs. And so online, the liberals have completely wet the bed, and they're going after Hasan 2.5 years out from a general election, and are trying to pigeonhole him in that he's a terrible American and, all of this could be his fault, which is insane. If we look at historically what's been happening in American politics, Bernie started beating this drum. And his message, in my opinion, and I didn't vote for Bernie, and I have recently said I regret that vote because I have been doing a lot of internal thinking and studying as to what are my politics, because my politics have typically been my whole adult life. I'm liberal and I vote with Democrats. Well, the Democrats keep losing.
I do want to mention something, though. It's not a good sign that Democrats are running the electability, or not even the electability argument, but like the harm reduction narratives like 2 years out. It's not a good sign at all that a lot of these like liberal content creators who feel as though like they have to do this over and over again. They're doing it so far out right now before the primaries even happen. Especially when like the harm reduction narratives are just not they're not good. They're not good at getting people off the couch is precisely what I'm saying. Right? Like I can't believe I'm literally being pre-blamed for a loss that might take place in the future.
And so I started digging beneath that surface. Why are Democrats losing? Specifically during Kamala Harris's campaign, when she started trotting around with Liz Cheney, it really struck me. Like, why is she trying to get these people to vote for her that will never, ever vote for her? Why isn't she courting the progressive side of the party? And here's what's so critical. In the last campaign, it's not that Trump grew his vote. It's that less people that typically vote Democrat turned out. So the Democratic Party, instead of courting the progressive side, they go and court the Ben Shapiros, the Liz Cheneys, the Charlie Kirks, these elusive right-wingers that are never, ever, ever going to peel off and vote for a liberal. Because here's the thing. In middle America, everybody believes Kamala to be super progressive. The Hasans of the world are like, no, she's a corporate Dem. Gavin Newsom is a corporate Dem. But in the psyche of the American public, they're like, oh, they're so liberal. So moving to the center is a fool's errand and is perceived as disingenuous. So Kylie,
it's not only perceived as disingenuous, it almost looks like you're caught with your pants down, right? But also, it's not for like a real base. If Kamala Harris said, I'm in it for Medicare for all, baby, affordability is a major crisis that Americans are facing, and a big part of that is the affordability of healthcare, and therefore, I'm going to solve this problem. If she ran on that, people would at least have something to hold on to. That's the main success of Zoran Mamdani. Okay? That is the main success of Zoran Mamdani. He had 5 policies that directly tackle some of the key issues that New Yorkers were facing that were within the confines of permissibility. It was totally doable, and he's doing them right now. It's that simple. That's the reason why he won, in spite of the establishment Democrats going after him, even though he won the primary, right? In spite of the entire Republican machine coming after him, in spite of the Israel lobby coming after him. Why are liberals freaking out about Hasan not committed to vote for Gavin Newsom? Isn't the point of a centrist campaign to win over Republican voters? If you're confident in the moderation strategy, Hasan's comments shouldn't concern you. If they do, ask yourself why. Yes. Exactly. And if you think I'm a Republican, right? If I'm MAGA, then you should court my MAGA vote, courting MAGA voters. Not Republicans, but moderates and people just highlighting that leftists aren't worth the energy. They say they would have voted for Kamala with an arms embargo. We no longer believe them. Okay. If leftists aren't worth the energy, why are you freaking out about it? If we're not worth the energy, why are you spending all your time chirping? Perhaps it's because you recognize that there is a change, there's a shift happening in the base of support, and you're losing your fucking grip. You're losing your grip at the core of the party. You at least recognize that the establishment Democrats that are losing their grip of power at the core of the party, they're losing the base, are no longer going to be able to give you money. It's super simple. All you can do in this situation is recognize what the demands are of the public and then communicate those demands to the establishment representatives that you're courting the campaign contributions of. You want those campaign contributions to come down into your pockets. You want to get paid by them. That's why you're playing the role of this like servant of the DNC for free right now. Just tell them the truth. It's a mutually beneficial relationship regardless. It's win-win. If you say the truth, you'll become more popular. Okay? If you're running around thinking like, why won't people understand that the establishment Dems are fucking awesome? Okay? Why is Hasan so popular? If you're running around thinking that, because I know some of you are, right? The haters that are in here right now. This is the reason, because I have uncompromising positions. I have a mechanism for change. I believe in it. I believe in the affirmative vision for American society. I will work with people in the Democratic Party to get that vision across. I'm not going to be inauthentic. I'm not going to fucking lie to my audience. I'm not going to say Joe Biden isn't a dog shit old ass cadaver that is going to lead the country into a horrible state, right? I'm not gonna shelter my audience from that truth. You can get mad if you want, but I'm principled and I'm always going to be honest. I'm principled, I'm stubborn, and I'm always going to be honest about my perspective. You might not agree with that perspective. If you don't want to fucking agree with that perspective, that's fine. We can have a conversation about why I might be right and you might be wrong. I'm unbought and unbossed, which is why a lot of these guys get really fucking mad, because I'm backed by my own community. That's it. I don't need to go to the DNC and beg them for finances. I don't need to go to Democratic candidacies and go, hey, can I get like $7,000 for a post, please? That's it. And it fucking pisses people off. And the reality of the matter is the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. As you know, your subscriptions help me maintain my editorial independence. But like, even before I had a fuck ton of subscribers, I still was saying the same shit. I was preaching to a much smaller audience. It was my principled stance that allowed me to reach this level of success. Not because what I was saying was automatically popular. It took fucking years and years and years for people to get there. Okay?
Pop up, or let's finish this clip and then I'll pop up some of the reactions.
Combat against the couch, not necessarily even against the Republican Party, but usually you're fighting against the couch, people who just don't go out and vote. And for me, the way I see it is if the Democratic establishment makes this decision one more time, just as they did with Hillary Clinton, just as they did with Kamala Harris, and in some ways, just as they did with Joe Biden as well, which led to Trump too, then they just don't care. And there's not much I can do.
Let me tell you something. I agree with everything you say, but as a person who lived in a red state for 50 years, I would crawl through 10 feet of concrete to vote for Gavin Newsom, even though I think he's duplicitous, a hypocrite, a thirst trap, hungry for power, all of the things that you say, and harms the Democratic Party and sets the psychological soil to be more prey to fascism. All of that I agree with. But there are so many young, queer, Black, brown, marginalized people in red states. And even though this corporate Democrat is, you see it in a long term.
You are still young and hopeful. Some of us have seen a lifetime of third-party candidates lose over and over again. We're worn out and afraid. What are you talking about? I'm not even a fucking third-party advocate, okay? At least for the time being. There is no third-party viability. Like, this is... If you listen to my commentary all the time, I speak on it all the fucking time. This is part of the reason why I work within the confines of the Democratic Party, because it's unfortunately the only viable outlet that we have right now that is closest to our agenda. Okay? Like, the third-party viability conversation is basically the same conversation that liberals are having with someone like myself. Okay? Which is, you're the reason why Kamala lost, and you're the reason why the third party is not viable. I don't think you guys understand. There's a reason why Zohran Mamdani ran as the Democratic mayor of New York, as a Democratic socialist. Okay? If he ran as a third-party candidate in New York City, he would not have won that fucking primary, regardless of how good his policies are. Unfortunately, that's how his politics works. Okay, that's how politics work in general. Can y'all please internalize that Hasan said he'd vote third party because of the situation, if it was Gavin versus JD Vance, would already be so cooked to be pointless? He doesn't actually think third party is viable. Get this through your skulls, please. Exactly. Are you seriously ignoring the what witch hunt your community is doing against me? Who are you? What? Hasan, can we have a sex stream soon?
Game in the short-term game, a President Newsom over a President JD Vance. Okay, so that's the clip, and that's where they cut it off that went viral. And Hasan was making the point to me, and we're friends, and so we're having a political conversation, and these conversations should not be shut down. This is the most important conversation as far as Democrats winning moving forward. Hasan is saying, look, Democrats are up against the couch. What are you going to do to motivate people to get up off their ass and go vote? Going and playing patty cake with Ben Shapiro is not going to do it. Playing patty cake with Liz Cheney is not going to do it. Taking AIPAC money is not going to do it. It's going to make people like Hasan and many, many others that feel homeless in the United States political two-party political system stay on the couch. And so I think that's a really valid point. Now, I have this red state trauma of living in a red state for 50 years and seeing how damn it.
A complimentary point to the position that Jennifer Welch is making here, but it's not just people who feel homeless in the base of the Democratic Party. It's a lot of moderates too. Because like there is an economy of time that you spend on the campaign trail, because Democrats unfortunately only run every 2 years, every 4 years, if at that. They forget that Republicans are running all the time. They're always advancing their agenda, right? And the reality of the matter is, there is no real argument for we are pro-Israel Democrats. Like, that's not real. The swing district voters, the median voters, are not sitting around and going, oh, I really want to vote for the Democratic Party because they're pro-Israel. I really want to vote for the Democratic Party because they are continuing the genocide of Palestinians with my tax dollars. Like, that is my, like, I was going to vote for the Republicans, but now I'm voting for the Democrats for that. There is no swing district voter, for example, that's going around and saying, I actually want to make sure that, you know, Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare CEOs deliver super profits for the shareholders. Okay? I don't want to take that away from them. Like, they're not making decisions on this. They're making decisions on the Democrats looking silly because the Republicans take advantage of the fact that the Democrats don't have discernible policies, decipherable policies. They don't have like key plank positions that you can identify them with. They are not definable by key plank positional policy making in the same way that Republicans are, as a matter of fact. This was a major difference between Bernie Sanders, for example, and someone like Kamala Harris. You know what Bernie's about. You know what Bernie's about. Right? He's been telling you what he's about for years. Okay? You don't know what Kamala Harris is about. So when you don't know what she's about, then Republicans can present her as like a silly person who wants to give, whose only decipherable policy position is like giving bottom surgeries to transgender Guatemalans in a detention facility. Right? And then Democrats look at that and go, oh, we got cleaned out on this trans shit. We got to cut the trans people out of this conversation. It's like, no, if you want to defend trans people, and you should be uncompromising in your defense for trans people and for all marginalized communities, then you present a comprehensive, universal policy agenda that people can get on board with so that the discourse is around those things, the good things that you're going to give them. And you're not constantly finding yourself in a defensive posture on culture war issues where you get fucking owned by the dumbass Republicans who lie about everything. It's that simple. If you had a vision and an agenda that said, hey, we want free healthcare, we want free college, you're going to get attacked. Let's be real. You're going to get destroyed by mainstream media. But at a time when mainstream media is also losing its influence, there are people like me and many others who will ride for you, who will make up for the lack of support that you're getting from newspapers. There are people out there who will go to your town halls. You will be able to have a real populist, grassroots-backed candidacy. This is the reason why Zoran was able to win against all odds. There is no mathematical equation where this works, by the way. Kamala was able to change 3% of voters' minds, but she lost 11% who voted for Biden. This math did not work, and people like myself could see it from a mile away. This idea that you're like posturing to the moderates, posturing to the right-wingers, you're gonna pull right-wing voters away from the Trump campaign, and they're gonna come back to you. It was bullshit.
Republican policies are. And so I will vote for these short-term solutions to mitigate so that a woman who has been raped can receive health care, can get an abortion, because in Oklahoma right now, she can't. And I'm interested in having this conversation with Hasan because what we voted for with Biden is we voted for a sober driver. We had a drunk driver with Trump, and we needed a sober driver. And Joe Biden was our sober driver. Some good things. There was a lot of policies that he did that were good, but a lot of things he did continued and incubated fascism. And it's a really important conversation we have to have. The Democratic Party taking corporate money, giving blank checks to Israel, compromises them. And then to the voters at large, they go, well, there's really no difference in the two. And then you end up voting, your preconceived default settings of politics. And so here's what happens. That's where they cut off the video. And stay with me here. Here's all the liberals just bashing Hasan. This guy, Tim, this is incredible when you think about it. If leftists like Hasan had their way, Republicans would be in charge from 2016 to 2032 at least. How is he even considered any?
It's so funny because there's only been a brief moment in between where the Democrats actually won back power, for the record. Even in his hypothetical, it's okay, really? If it wasn't Joe Biden, it was Bernie Sanders in 2020, it would be bad. They're all centrist opportunists. Okay.
That's left. And what I would say to Tim here is what Hasan is saying is we need to build a party that has an FDR style impact that really, really impacts the lives of people instead of this slow moving incremental change that the current Democratic Party always proposes and leaves so many people out in the pasture and incubates them to go vote for the change candidate. And in both 2016 and 2024, that change candidate was Donald Trump. When Kamala Harris put herself with Liz Cheney, they reeked of the two-party system establishment. And again, Donald Trump seemed like the disruptor. Go to the next one. This is the one that really popped up. Usurp the chef says, when asked if he'd vote for Gavin Newsom or J.D. Vance for president, Hasan said he'd vote third party. This proves Hasan doesn't care about any of the marginalized groups he pretends to support. All he cares about is taking money from them so he can buy more outfits for stream. Okay, usurp the chef. This is intellectually dishonest completely from top to bottom. Gavin Newsom has proven that he doesn't care about trans people. Gavin Newsom has proven
people will say oh, Gavin Newsom advanced so many bills that are LGBT friendly. Of course he did. No one is saying that blue states are not safe havens for trans people. Okay. The point is, after all of that, why is he positioning himself as more moderate on trans issues? Because he wants to run for president. That signals that he's going to pivot. Okay. And if all you care about is the protection of trans people, which I don't think anyone is actually like that, for the record. No one is a single issue voter on trans people. And yes, this includes trans people as well. Guess why? Because trans people still need to pay for fucking healthcare. Trans people are not magical, mystical beings that live in this separate plane of existence where they don't give a shit about healthcare. They don't give a shit about making rent. They don't give a shit about having a good job, right? Everybody cares about the universal policies that we're talking about. But the issue here comes from the fact that these guys will be like, oh, well, you don't care about marginalized people. You don't care about trans people. Bitch, you don't care about trans people. You want Gavin Newsom, who is openly communicating that he's going to pivot away from this trans shit. You think that's your candidate, right? It's so stupid. Yes, of course, blue states are better for trans people than red states are. It's not even a question. Gavin Newsom himself has also unironically advocated against the trans bills as well internally within the party structure. Like a lot of those bills get passed. Like Tim Walz took a lot of credit for the Democrat Farmer Labor Party's wins with the one-person majority that they had in the state Congress, right? And what's interesting about that is that apparently, and I have some inside baseball on this. Tim Walz wasn't exactly on board with a lot of these bills. They take credit for it after the fact in the same way that Republicans take credit for the infrastructure spending that they vote against. Okay? These guys will stand in opposition to progressive legislation and then take credit for it after the fact. Kathy Hochul did this as well. It's just very frustrating. But this is not just about trans people anyway. Like, my argument is not just about trans people regardless. Okay? It's not. My argument for trans defense revolves around a good offense on universal policies so that the trans conversation is not even a major point of contention, so that the opposition looks silly and ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, transphobes need healthcare too. At the end of the day, transphobes also want to fucking make rent, right? You want to give them an argument to vote for you in spite of their transphobia. Same with racists. Same with homophobes. So when one side is saying, hey, listen, you're transphobic, fine, sucks to suck, trans people exist, nothing you can do about it, but do you want universal health care? Because we'll give it to you regardless of your fucking idiotic worldview. Versus the other side going, no, we're going to kill trans people. We're going to kill trans people. You have a much higher likelihood of winning those guys over to vote for you than constantly being even on a defensive posture about trans people, being like, no, trans people are beautiful. They're wonderful. We care about our trans allies. We care about trans people, even though the Democrats aren't even doing that. I saw someone talk about the FDR stuff, right? Where they were like, FDR got the New Deal across because he caved to the fucking white supremacists. And it got me thinking. I was like, yeah, you know, there is truth to this. Like, politics is the art of what's possible, right? Except Democrats don't have the material improvements in their agenda, and they're just caving to the racists. Like people don't understand that the conversation around FDR is oftentimes turned on its head, right? Where people will be like, oh, FDR only was able to get the New Deal across, which spelled material improvements for large segments of society by carving out concessions against black people. Okay? By carving out concessions against black people, like basically implemented what the practice known as, like, historic practice known as the redlining, all this stuff, right? Except Democrats are doing that, right? They're conceding on the racism stuff without even advocating for material improvements at all. It's a demonstrable fucking failure. I'm saying you don't need to do any of that. The ahistorical interpretation of FDR pissed me off. They built beautiful public housing in black neighborhoods like the Harlem houses, which still exist today. I know. I'm just saying that even in the false interpretation, it still doesn't help their analysis, right? Yeah, 1 dozen rats at a keyboard says, this whole meltdown is going to be hilarious in retrospect after Newsom gets dog walked out of his land by Bashar or Ossoff next year, which I agree. That's another thing that I agree as well. Like, Gavin Newsom is no motion. The whole reason Newsom is astroturfing this presumptive 2028 nominee status so hard is that in an actually open field, he doesn't really bring anything uniquely beneficial to the table. He's a bland, generic governor with good hair and skeletons in his closet. Is boring. Not everything is that deep, man. No one cares about Newsom per se. Just the idea that the largest lefty content creator can say, of course I'll vote for the Democrat, is going to make people wonder about his priorities. I think it's fine not to pledge an unconditional vote to a politician who hasn't even announced that they're running in the presidential primaries that are still 2 years away. I think it'd probably be good if the largest leftist content creator would stop pushing the bullshit both sides of the same narrative in a midterm year and maybe galvanize a big audience into taking electoral action. I think he's actually doing an important service to the party by making it clear early on that Newsom would carry a lot of baggage as a candidate in the form of deep distrust and skepticism within the progressive base, which in some ways needs to be addressed if he's going to run. You can be mad about it, but he's acting as a mouthpiece for a very commonly held sentiment within a core constituency of the Democratic base, not actively shaping it. Whether Newsom wants to mollify those concerns or plan around them is up to him, but you can't just ignore it. Yeah, I agree, man. Why would he try to help his audience make grounded, responsible decisions when instead he could further inflame the delusions by saying stuff like every Democrat would shoot all trans folks in the head if it meant getting one more vote, Lamau? You're not engaging with anything I'm talking about, so I'm just going to opt out now. Exactly. They never have this. They never want to have an argument. They never want to have an honest conversation. They just want to fucking move the needle in a million different directions and be like, Hasan bad, Hasan bad, Hasan bad. This is not going to address the real issues that you have in terms of advancing a successful campaign. Okay? You can think I am singularly responsible for hypnotizing the fucking masses away from voting for the Democratic Party like a fuck, or you can recognize that I'm simply a vehicle for that enmity. Okay? I am simply a mouthpiece for that anger and that very real resentment that people experience. And it's not just the progressive base either. It's not just the progressive base either.
He doesn't care.
Because it's hypotheticals, bro. Liberals are so fucking comfy. They are spending their time under fascism to ponder on realities that don't exist. I know. We still obviously don't like Trump. A lot of Americans don't like Trump. But people forgot how frustrating it was for millions of people with no sense of reality to feel so emboldened in this way.
What is happening in terms of, look, you say you care about law enforcement resources being put into this because of these serious
That's the worst angle. Who gives a fuck about cops, man? Oh my God.
A productive, good
These
life
are people. They're black people too. Like, you're a black woman. You are the daughter of immigrants. They are trying to incite a race riot against black immigrants.
The other day,
please, who gives a fuck about the police resources?
This is not new. This is not new in terms of these tropes.
Yeah, I guess I hit the hard B on that again. And people, now that this clip is resurfaced, I'm sure people will refuse to understand the point that I'm making and will get mad at the aesthetics once again. This was my criticism of Kamala Harris and the way she was addressing the Haitians are eating cats and dogs narrative. Okay? Bringing up the fact that like back when Republicans were in charge, it was unimaginably frustrating for every single American to constantly hear the dumbest morons chirping over and over and over again. Like, it's so stupid. I was saying, like, remind people of that. Remind people of how annoyed they were at the stupidity of the Republican Party. The Haitians are eating the dogs. Aren't you eating babies, bro? Lamau? Yes. Pied Piper law? Yes, I'm eating babies, dude.
About the illegal nature of what ICE is doing when he platformed Ben Shapiro. And so to put the burden of this on Hasan, who's saying, I'm not going to settle for a fascist collaborator who always is reaching to platform fascists. And
that also struck me as insane. On this stream, you cover politics, go to protests, talk to politicians, etc., while these lib streamers have debates about a hypothetical election between Hasan Piker and Ben Shapiro, or what if Epstein was a Democrat, or ethical incest and ethical CP, right? That's what they fucking talk about endlessly, and it's very frustrating. And then they go, Hasan doesn't care about any of this shit because he's rich, and then dumb fucks eat it up. I mean, I responded to one of those dumb fucks. Hold on. Where is it? I do want to point this out. Yeah, there's this like terminally online take that people love advancing over and over again, which was Hasan Piker is a very rich man from a very rich family. He lives in a mansion and drives expensive cars and makes millions of dollars a year for Jeff Bezos. So obviously all leftists need to listen to him when he says not to vote for the Democrats. I said, yes, between me and Gavin Newsom, I'm the one who's compromised by the super wealthy and their interests. Like, what are you saying? This is unironically the strike breaker narratives that you hear from reactionaries where they go, oh, these workers have far too much and they're jealous. They are lazy. They want more. Whenever there's like a work stoppage that takes place, there's this weird reactionary tendency among the masses to go, why the fuck are they stopping work? Are they lazy? Not realizing that you're just fucking defending the wealthy bosses in that situation by shitting on the people that have the same class interest as you. Motherfucker, Gavin Newsom is infinitely wealthier than me. What are you talking about? And not only is he infinitely wealthier than me, he's also representing the interests of the fucking billionaires when he stands in opposition to a billionaire wealth tax. What is this conversation? He's not even a good candidate. I haven't even been able to address why he's not a good candidate for even the moderates, because he has that stink associated with, Hasan Moneybags. Why would Hasan Piker say this? Hakeem Jeffries is telling Democrats not to protest Trump during his State of the Union address. According to Axios, he needs to go. It's so strange. It's so fucking strange. It's not even just about like whether Gavin would be better marginally than like a Republican on trans issues, because he probably would be. Like he would be. But it's the fact that he's trying to write out trans people from the conversation to begin with when he doesn't have to do that at all.
And find common ground with them. It's just intellectually dishonest, because Hasan has a record of standing up for trans people. And when Gavin Newsom did that with Charlie Kirk, that pain was felt through the trans community far and wide. And Pete Buttigieg did the same. And Rahm Emanuel came on my podcast and did the same. And so to say that Hasan doesn't care about marginalized groups is completely disingenuous, because what he's saying is, I'm not buying the lie that Gavin Newsom does. I'm not buying that anymore, because each time I do, or each time we do, it incubates a more and more fascist culture. Here's the part of the video that they cut out that I think provides incredible context for the remainder of our conversation. Pop this up, Kylie. Enthusiastically crawl through 10 feet of concrete for all of the marginalized people.
Do you feel like the Democrats know that, and that's why they get away with their ineptitude?
100%.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I'm like,
okay, pause right there.
I don't even.
So Hasan clocked me right there, and I'll own it, because my politics are open-minded. They're not fixed. I don't play nanny boo-boo politics that, oh my God, you said you would vote third party, therefore you must be canceled. Number one, Hasan's not a politician. Number two, Hasan gets to think whatever he thinks. Number three, there is a large growing in Gen Z and as millennials that have felt completely unseen and left behind by the two-party political system, who hate and despise how much they suck up to corporations, who see the moral duplicity in a Hakeem Jeffries, a Gavin Newsom, a Chuck Schumer, a Cory Booker, who take money from the MAGA corporate donors and also take it from them. And so when Hasan said that to me, do you think the Democrats know that and take your vote for granted? And I said 100%. He's right, because they do, because I have this red state trauma. So I end up thinking, okay, I'm going to do a harm reduction vote. The reason why this conversation is so important, listener, is because we have time right now to have these conversations and to move our politicians to a progressive populist platform. We have the opportunity right now to rid ourselves.
Michael from Pennsylvania had a good take on this. We shouldn't say we are not going to vote for him, that he's unelectable. He is. But I'll stick my neck out to say, like, if I'm representative of such a viable constituency that you need to secure the votes of, I'll fucking stick my neck out. I don't care. I'll stick my fucking neck out. I'll talk the way that they want to. I'll talk the language that they want to hear. Okay. They can try and use that as a way to like negatively polarize against myself and people like myself and the community that I represent. But like, you know, you have to listen to us. Like, it's ridiculous. We're all in this together. If you hate the Republicans and you want to make this electoral calculation, if you think you can win without us, well, Kamala Harris tried that and fucking lost. And it's ironic because there are plenty of people who didn't fucking vote third party. You know what I mean? Even if all the third party voters turned around and voted for Kamala Harris, she still would have lost. So it turns out there's a much larger coalition of voters out there that aren't like super woke or anything like that, but simply choose not to because they're like, this doesn't fucking bother me. Who cares? I can't do anything about it. Bro, this loser can't help herself. I think I broke him. This is my regime pilled goat, Stacey K, right? It's so funny. These people say like, oh, your dad's favorite comedian, but like, are they funny? Is she funny at all? I've never heard her make a joke, you know? Like they constantly run around being like, noticing there's been considerably less pushback in the chat since Jen started speaking. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and act as though it's not more valuable, nice bathroom, to hear from a Southern blonde woman saying the exact same things that I'm saying. It is. Okay? It is what it is. I'm not going to fucking sit here and posture. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and posture and be like, man, you guys don't listen to me. Who cares? It is what it is. You know, you work with whatever you can. Democrats literally stripped out the provision in the one big beautiful bill that would have banned Medicaid coverage for gender affirming care. They stripped out all the anti-trans provisions in the appropriations bill that just passed, as Eric Michael Garcia, DC bureau chief of The Independent, MS Now News columnist. Democrats moved significantly to the center on immigration last year on Minneapolis, but one of the few areas they didn't pivot was trans people. Just wait. The issue here, for the record, the issue here is that a lot of these guys will inevitably come to our side. The problem is they're not coming to our side fast enough. And I'm glad, and I will take the help of any single person like Jen who says, you know what, I was wrong about this stuff. I think we should be demanding more. Sick of people using trans people like me as a football. Yeah, I know. As a trans person, Democrats' failure to win elections is why these past 2 years have had me give out more DIY HRT resources to people who can't access it. The Democrats give a shit about us, they would win elections. Thank you. Exactly my point. The biggest failure of the Democrats is the pivot to moderation. That's my biggest argument against the establishment Democrats, because their endless pivot to this like reasonable center is the reason why Republicans keep fucking winning. Just have some backbone, have some decency, have some courage. Advocate for the positions that you actually stand on. You know, her strength is she's got is making these libs listen to her. Your strength is making doom-pilled young men listen to you. We just got to be grateful we have both of you. Exactly. We all have our own lane that we occupy, right?
See primaries of corporate Democrats who lie to us and use our votes and take advantage of our votes and our compassion for
all the libs on Threads are talking shit about you. I know. What they fail to understand is I might look like I am an island alone in the internet discourse, but there is a reason why I have this sizable audience that I have. There's a reason why so many of the other like left adjacent, otherwise liberal content creators like Midas Touch or Pod Save America also command the interests of massive audiences, because they have realized that the momentum and the real grassroots support is on the side of people like ourselves, even in the base of the Democratic Party's voter base, right? The Democratic Party's base of support has also absolutely shifted in this direction. So a lot of these guys are simply yelling at an audience that is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. This is unfortunately another cycle of the internet is not real life. But the reason why I'm actively fighting back right now is because these sentiments are going to calcify once again. And I want to get those guys who are chirping at me, who are chirping at like the supposed left spoiler position, all this shit, to stop doing this, because I don't want to lose to the Republicans again. Okay? And a lot of these people feel emboldened when they don't get any pushback for these fucking stupid takes. So we have to fucking tell them that they're wrong. Just help them address why the Democratic Party approval ratings are so poor right now when it's the opposition party. Just ask that question. They have no answer for it. I have an answer for it. They don't. Every single liberal content creator that wants to get a fucking check from the DNC that is currently punching left actively, ask them why the National Democratic Party's approval ratings are in the shitter. That's it. Ask them if they like Zohran Mamdani. Ask them if they think that a Zohran Mamdani-like candidacy would be bad. Libs, vote for Gavin. What's his platform? What do you mean? What's he offering? Fuck you, selfish prick. My friends are being killed by ICE. How the fuck dare you make demands? Oh, sorry. Is Gavin anti-ICE? No, he wants to triple their budget. No new funding. Kristi Noem must resign. What do you mean no new funding? Cut the funding. Abolish ICE. This is what you should be advocating for. No new funding is a cowardly way to reform ICE. Okay? I like that people present that no new funding as like this strong opposition to ICE. Get the fuck out of here. This is what people mean when they talk about the ratchet effect on U.S. politics and the Democrats and Dem media's role in moving the country to the right. Trump triples DHS budget, and this becomes the new consensus baseline for both parties with zero movement in the other direction. It is objectively unserious that the liberal consensus feigns outrage at Trump's DHS abuses but never broaches, much less demands, their funding returned to at least 2024 levels, e.g. reduced by 66%. Body cams and redundant laws do nothing but change the fundamental incentives. Do nothing to change the fundamental incentives. Yeah, 90% of the libs in your replies were anti-Zoran all of last year until he won. Exactly. They have no shame. They're not vote blue no matter who. They literally think that like a centrist Democrat must win all the time so that they can feel like their priors have been confirmed. That's all this is. Oh, it's so frustrating to have these fucking conversations all the time.
Marginalized groups and use them to their advantage to then curry favor with corporations and then go make massive stock exchange trades while in Congress. Okay, continue with that clip.
Even entertain that stuff, especially this far out from an election. But even in the primary season, that's immediately the conversation is like, well, whoever is the candidate, you're going to vote for them, right? And you know what's really indecent about that too? They never return the favor for left flank candidates.
Yeah, no.
Because no one ever made hay about Bernie Sanders potentially becoming the candidate and all of the articles that came out about how Trump might be more preferable to Bernie Sanders. Because they were writing those. Liberals were writing those articles talking about how, the head of Goldman Sachs, who was like, I'm a lifetime Democratic Party voter. I think, Donald Trump is better than Bernie Sanders.
I know.
So I just think this is a super important conversation to have. And if you have people on the left that are shutting this down, they are failing to do a proper autopsy. We know that Ken Martin at the DNC spiked the autopsy as to why we lost. He spiked it. I suspect that in that autopsy as to why Kamala lost is because the Democrats refuse to listen to voices like this. And I am willing to go into these conversations with Hasan and get owned. Do you think the Democrats know that you're always going to do that and take advantage of your vote? Yes, I do. I do think that. Anytime you have a political party or political movement that is shutting down this type of conversation, when we lost 2 elections to a complete dipshit, an incompetent con man, and we can't have the conversation with the progressive flank of our party that Bernie Sanders created a movement and it continues to permeate through the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it was an MSNBC host who famously said if Bernie Sanders won, that they would do mass executions in Central Park.
So much so that you see progressives winning right now. Zoran Mom.
Kaivan, who worked for Hillary in 2016, has knocked off the left since, posted after he voted that he ranked Cuomo number 1 in the mayoral primary and that leftists didn't actually know what was coming, and then deleted it after Zoran won. Yeah. Early voted in New York City, Andrew Cuomo, Adrian Adams, Brad Lander, Whitney Tilson, Zollner Myrie. Roast me if you want, but just because people are afraid to tweet how they voted doesn't mean they didn't vote that way too. Don't be too surprised about the outcome. Yeah. Can we move on from these left-wing creators that have built a business just on hating Democrats? They help nobody but themselves. That's it. These guys are fucking not only irrelevant, they're unpopular. 1/3 wow. The next day after what you said is even more important. I know. We're gonna talk about this in a second. I already posted about this on my Twitter as well. Once this part of the segment is over.
Dunny. And when you look at all of the issues that Zoran won on, line item by line item by line item, and you take them out of being progressive, conservative, Democrat, Republican, they're all super popular policies. So this Democratic establishment that Hasan is speaking out so much against they don't want people to know that. So I have a really hard time with the liberals online right now trying to shut this conversation down and deny Hasan his opinion or browbeat Hasan from here to Timbuktu because he is pointing out a conversation that we need to have. And I think the reason Kamala lost, because nobody wanted to get off their couch that was super progressive because they feel like both parties are the same, because they're not lazy corporate news voters that just takes what MSNBC says and takes what CNN says and then goes out and votes. They have dug deeper. These are very high information voters that go, now, wait a minute. AIPAC spent $200-something million to get Trump elected. It's clear Benjamin Netanyahu wants him elected. Kamala is taking money from the same PAC really isn't talking about this genocide and the blank check to Israel. I see this as a continuation, as more of the same, with it being slightly rebranded. And I just think it's very MAGA-esque to shut down a conversation like that with Hasan and me, and to take a side on that, and not understand that
it's blue and on. It's blue and on. It's blue MAGA.
Hasan and I were having a super important conversation that should be front and center of every Democratic conversation right now.
Yeah, this too. This is exactly right. Normie Dems and leftists share way more in common to the corporate centrists who maintain their power by making us believe the opposite is true. This person posted the classic, like, cringe Maoist LARPer. Have you considered the economic anxiety of those poor Trump voters? Nicole, suburban mom, and successful corporate lawyer. Every Republican is an affront to God. To which I said, even attendance at a No Kings rally will instantly help you cringe Twitter liberals realize that the suburban mom and the Maoists both despise the Republican Party more than the consultant moderation demanding Democratic Party boosters do. I'm out there. I see it. I see the anger. I see the resentment. That's why it's not confusing to me when I see the Democratic Party's unpopularity, because they've lost their own fucking base. It's that simple. Okay? They have lost their own base of support. Sean Vid says, I promise right now, years away from an election, to vote for an awful shitbag bigot because he isn't the other guy. Shut the fuck up. You are making things worse. Your vote is wait outside of election day. Regardless of how you end up voting, until then, you can bargain with it. The lesser evils are watching you. If you promise your vote for nothing, you'll get nothing. Say you won't vote for a bad candidate. Say you'll only vote for policies you like. That's it. That's why I don't mind sticking my neck out and saying I'm not voting for Gavin Newsom. Unless Gavin Newsom becomes this fucking radical advocate for Medicare for all of a sudden and can actually convince people like myself. It's that simple. Bro, I had people on threads and Twitter tell me Blue MAGA is a racist dog whistle. I don't understand how people eat the boo so easily. You don't need to have a conversation with those people. Let's be real. Whenever people hit the identity politics button over and over again to be like, oh, you, sir, are actually a racist. You hate black people. You hate brown people. You hate ICE. You hate you hate ICE, sorry. You love ICE. You hate trans people. You don't really have to have a conversation with them. You could just be like, did this policy work in 2016? Did this work in 2016? Fuck you, Hasan, you dumb moron. Nothing, by the way, nothing makes centrist liberals more mad than seeing someone like myself succeed in this media ecosystem. Nothing. I mean, they literally have developed so much hatred for everything that I represent as a spokesperson for a very real constituency. Nothing pisses them off more than seeing their favorite Democrats come and talk to me. Nothing pisses them off more than when people that I love, that people whose policies that I ride for, end up winning. And then they have to sit there and act like they were there all along. They fucking have so much anger. It's awesome. It's fucking awesome. They are preying on my fucking downfall every damn day of the week. Very important. Me when it's ICE in the USA versus me when it's USA on ICE. Are you turning into Charlie Kirk then, Blau? Is that what you're saying?
Into midterms. How do we build a majority party that services the most people without throwing any groups under the bus and doesn't prioritize servicing corporations? And that's what he's saying. And I'm okay with us being, at the end of the day, that Hasan might.
Yeah, it's all people going, if Hasan criticized Republicans half as much as he criticized them, he would actually be worth listening to. That's so funny. Just say you don't actually listen to anything that I'm saying. Okay? Just say that you have never actually tuned into a fucking broadcast, because if you did, you would know that I rail against the Republicans all the fucking time. And the only reason why I rail against the Democrats is because of their closeness to the Republicans for some hypothetical, mystical, moderate voter that doesn't actually fucking exist. That's the point. They have no answer for why. Bernie Sanders is far more popular than Kamala Harris. They have no answer for why Zoran Mamdani is one of the most nationally popular politicians in the country, in spite of all of the Republican attacks that he receives. The far left won't win the Dems in the election. They're too radical. The far left wants free healthcare for everyone, higher tax for the top 1%, well-funded schools and free colleges, LGBTQ plus people to be seen as human, immigrants to be seen as human, no more Holocaust. These guys are so silly. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to talk about this in a second. I'm going to talk about this analysis in a second. Soy Pill says, yes, because trans people, Latinos, and every other marginalized group is going to be worse off if a Republican wins. These people can only imagine a world where marginalized people are in a perpetual state of torment, saddled between both parties, bad and worse. We need to have a very real conversation that the continual offering of this false choice is, in and of itself, bigoted. We are 2 years out, and you are not even able to imagine a good candidate for the Democratic Party perfectly demonstrates why normal working class marginalized people feel so disenfranchised. Exactly. And then they turn around and fucking say, why? Why are these people not voting for us? Then they start trying to fucking yell about black men. Black men are not voting for the Democrats. What the fuck's going on? It's like, first of all, that's a ridiculous position to have because black voters are so reliable in terms of voting for the Democratic Party. Even if you were to think that the Democratic Party is like voting for the Democrats is the most righteous moment of civil rights activism that you can engage in, which I don't believe, right?
The person that sits on the couch, and I might be the person that goes and votes for the corporate Dem. And I'm still evolving on that. And I have to keep an open mind about it. But more than anything, Hasan and I are online personalities. We are not politicians. And we both get to have our opinions about this. And we get to succinctly disagree or push each other and evolve. But when I see liberals or people in the Democratic Party trying to completely shut him down and shut down this conversation, it feels very cultist to me. It feels the opposite of what a progressive movement, a resistant movement to fascism should be. And then Kylie, put up the tweet and the graph about where the Democrats are right now. Okay, Hasan says, liberal Twitter has erupted, demanding party loyalty, hitting lesser evilism and harm reduction lines 2 years out from the presidential election. But they refuse to reckon with this historic unpopularity for the Dems as Trump is deeply unpopular. Hold your electeds accountable, please. So here we have the Democratic Party. The favorability is 33%, historic lows. And what Hasan is saying is, why do I, as a voter, why did this large voting group, why do we have to concede? Why aren't the politicians conceding that corporations are not in the best interest of the people? And the people in the Democratic Party that are trying to shut this down, all you're doing is giving his platform more power. Because when I see the Democratic establishment behave this way in a cult-like way to say that we can't have an honest conversation about this, it makes me really lean into what Hasan is saying and dive into it more and more, because oftentimes progressives are just, they're just right way too early. About where Bernie Sanders was in 2016, he was right. His message has aged far better. I didn't buy it at the time. I thought, oh, Bernie's crazy. He can't win an election. The fact of the matter is he probably would have beaten Trump. And where would we be now if we would stop listening to corporate Dems and the personalities that prop up this? We have to be a fixed party that
I see you get dumb hate all the time, but never did I expect it to be you about promoting democracy. No, that is at the heart of this issue. A lot of the blue anon voters, the blue MAGA voters, demand party loyalty and don't want accountability and don't want to extract concessions from their elected representatives, which is inherently undemocratic. They take advantage of the two-party system to say, you got to vote for us, my way or the fucking highway. You got to vote for these guys instead. Even if I don't like them, look at me. Look at how moral I am. I'm holding my nose and voting for the shit candidate. Okay, well, other people don't make that decision and don't go out and fucking vote. That's why the Democrats keep losing, and that's why the Republicans keep fucking winning. I'm tired of it. I don't want the Republicans to win. I think it's fucking ridiculous that they keep winning. I know why they keep winning. It's because Democrats have no fucking backbone, have no investment in defending anything at all. They concede on everything for no fucking reason. And then they spend more time trying to sell you why they actually have to do these concessions rather than advocate for the opposition.
Serves this two-party system, and we cannot push our elected officials to service the American people more. So I just wanted to respond to all of this and say that me as a voter and as an online commentator, I'm going to continue to have these conversations. And the more the Democratic Party tells people to shut up, the more I realize how rigged the whole thing is. And then I end up going further and further left. Every Democratic politician should be shutting down corporate money. Every Democratic politician should be going on shows like mine, and especially shows like Hasan's, because that's where the people didn't show up, because they are tired of being lied to by Democrats.
Hell yeah. That's why primaries are so important. When you need to weed out the corporate Dems, it boils down to corporate money. Ban that. That's why candidate vetting and research in primaries is so important. Are we a resistance party or just another cult under the blue banner? I have felt for years that the establishment Dems have just been bought as the GOP, and deny that is to have your head in the sand as a MAGAT. I totally agree with Hasan that we need an FDR representative at this moment in time who is willing to go the extra mile to include everyone in their policies. In addition, I want America to walk the walk when it comes to equality. Look at that. People don't have any answer for this. They think, oh, everybody hates. They think, oh no, everybody just hates the Republicans and they're going to be fine with eating whatever corporate-backed establishment Democrat slop that we fucking present. That's not going to happen. That hasn't happened. And even when it does sometimes, for example, when everybody, myself included, plugged their nose and fucking voted because we wanted to get Trump out of office, look where that brought us. It brought us to Trump too. It brought us to concentration camps. It brought us to ICE. It's utterly ridiculous. We cannot do return to normalcy politics, okay?